Chapter 164, Silver Pills Are Enough. The Wuxia Genetic Evolution College's attitude towards Saluka's leave of absence was similar to that of the teacher in charge, Hu Nanzhang. The host could not be too petty. Moreover, the New India Genetic Evolution College had clearly stated that they could provide all kinds of evidence. Even though everyone knew that the evidence was definitely fake, it would be degrading to argue with the India sector over this matter. As for whether Wuxia Genetic Evolution College would also produce a third-year senior who had taken a break from school to participate in the battle, the principal, Wen Xinglin, disdained to do that. He only sent a short message to the students participating in the combat exchange through the Academic Affairs Office. Use your strongest strength to suppress all evil and clowns. This is your era, Wen Xinglin. After Zhu Tui finished reading the message, he took a few of the alloy silver pills that he had obtained earlier and put the rest into the tactical pockets of his combat armor. Get ready! On the other side, Saluka suddenly grinned at Zhu Tui. His smile was a little strange. The request of Haruji, the teacher in charge, still echoed in Saluka's ears. Zhu Tui must start. Zhu Tui and Saluka moved at the same time when the referee gave the order. Neither of them moved, but they attacked at the same time. The 3 silver balls and the flying sword flew out at the same time. The flying sword hovered nearby, but the silver balls whistled and blasted towards Saluka at high speed. Saluka's left hand, which was holding the bottle, trembled slightly. A string of water droplets flew out of the bottle. He flicked his fingers like a lotus flower and instantly formed 3 ice shields in front of him. The single ice shield was not big. It was about 50 centimeters long and 40 centimeters wide. It was flying up and down around Saluka. However, that was not all. One part of the water droplets formed an ice shield, while the other part turned into an icicle that whistled towards Zhu Tui. At the same time, Saluka flicked his fingers. Small ice shields flew out continuously. Together with the 3 large ice shields, they blocked the all-round attacks from Zhu Tui's 3 alloy silver pills. Moreover, he took advantage of the moment when Zhu Tui was dodging his icicles to quickly shoot out a small ice shield to surround Zhu Tui and freeze his 2 alloy silver pills. However, just like Azari, Saluka was still extremely wary of the flying sword that Zhu Tui was circling nearby. At least half of his attention was on guarding against Zhu Tui's flying sword. Zhu Tui did not panic even when the alloy silver pills were frozen and dropped to the ground. One after another, the alloy silver pills quickly flew out of his armor pocket. They did not circle around him at all as they shot straight toward Saluka. On the other hand, Zhu Tui would occasionally dodge the icicles that Saluka threw at him. The speed of the icicle that Saluka blasted over was not fast. It was not even half the speed of the silver pill. Zhu Tui did not need to put up any defenses. He only needed to move slightly to dodge Saluka's icicle attack. It was impossible to hurt him with an icicle. However, Saluka kept repeating himself. Zhu Tui immediately noticed something strange in his mental perception. All the icicles suddenly lost their momentum the moment he dodged them. They fell to the ground and turned into ice water on the spot. Soon, there were at least a dozen puddles of ice water around him. Zhu Tui immediately understood. This should be Saluka's plan. After the icicles landed, they turned into liquid. When the water around him accumulated to a certain extent, it should be the moment when Saluka launched his killing move against him. He had seen through Saluka's plan. At this moment, the intention of Saluka's disorderly icicles was extremely obvious. Other than leaving behind a pool of water on the ground for him to unleash his killing move, Saluka's disorderly icicles had actually been restricting Zhu Tui to the spot, preventing him from moving too far away. Fortunately, my battle plan is to end the battle quickly. Zhu Tui's gaze shifted slightly. Almost at the same time, the whistling sound of the silver flying sword circling nearby became even louder. It was a sign that he was starting to accelerate. Seeing this, Saluka became even more vigilant. The 3 ice shields spun at high speed, specifically protecting his upper body. Another alloy silver pill flew out of Zhu Tui's pocket. The moment it flew out, it arrived in front of Saluka. There was still a distance of 10 meters between them. This distance was too short, but it was the most suitable distance for Saluka. Seeing the alloy silver pill fly out, Saluka's fingers trembled slightly. A drop of water turned into a small ice shield and greeted it. Bang! The alloy silver ball that had arrived in front of Saluka suddenly exploded into a ball of silver light. Wuxia controlled the explosive silver pills that the school provided him with his mind power, and exploded the pills once it came into contact with the shield. The explosive silver pill instantly exploded into a cloud of silver mist. In fact, it was an optical illusion formed by the disintegration of the explosive silver pill into nearly 100 small particles. Due to inertia, most of the small particles of the explosive silver pill were blasted towards Saluka. Although this could not deal a fatal blow to Saluka, it was still very troublesome to be injured. It would even severely affect his combat strength. Saluka was flustered for a moment. His fingertips trembled, and in an instant, at least a dozen small ice shields popped out, shielding his acupoints. It was also at this moment that Wuxia suddenly focused his gaze when another silver pill flew out. An extremely powerful mental energy fluctuation suddenly erupted from his body. He lashed out with his mental whip. It was the strongest mental whip that Wuxia could unleash at the moment. The maximum attack range of his mental whip was less than 7 meters. Under normal circumstances, it would not be able to hit Saluka, but he had a mental chain. Wuxia had recently developed a new method of attaching his mental whip to his mental chain and lashing out. He called it an ability combination. This kind of ability combination had a huge effect on mental strength. In theory, the mental whip that was attached to the mental chain could reach more than 100 meters away. The power was extremely terrifying. However, there were also flaws and problems. When the mental whip was attached to the mental chain, it could whip for a long distance. However, the further he drew, the weaker the power would be. Moreover, the further he drew, the greater the consumption of his mind power. Wuxia had already noticed this problem during his training. The mental chain had always been connected to his mind power before it hit its target. It was as if he had pulled a line through the mental chain. The further he drew, the longer the line, and the greater the consumption of his mind power. However, at this moment, the distance between Wuxia and Saluka was only slightly more than 10 meters. The energy consumption was not too great, and the decrease in power was negligible. Almost at the same time that Saluka blocked Wuxia's explosive silver pill in a flurry, Wuxia's mental whip, which was supported by the mental chain, struck Saluka's head. This was the strongest burst of Wuxia's mental whip. Previously, Kai Hongying had said that Azari's strongest mental attack was only half of the strongest mental whip that Wuxia had used on her. However, in reality, Wuxia had been holding back when he whipped Kai Hongying with his mental whip because he was afraid of damaging her. He only used less than 3% of his mind power to unleash a mental whip. However, at this moment, Wuxia's full-powered mental whip lashed out with more than 5% of his mind power. Its true power was 4 times that of Azari's strongest mental attack. Almost instantly, Saluka let out an uncontrollable scream. The water bottle in his left hand fell to the ground. However, Saluka was from the mystery branch. His mind power was also very strong. Wuxia's mental whip had only temporarily injured Saluka's mind. It had affected him for a moment, so it did not cause much damage to Saluka. Saluka did not even fall to the ground. His body only swayed for a moment. However, this sudden mental whip interrupted Saluka's mind power frequency. The speed of the 3 rapidly spinning ice shields that Saluka used as a defense plummeted on the spot. The ice shields began to slowly disintegrate. This was an opportunity. The fleeing sword that had been hovering above Saluka's head suddenly made a large turn and flew toward him. At that moment, the power of Wuxia's silver flying sword was extremely shocking. In the blink of an eye, it was accelerated to the extreme. It shot towards Saluka at lightning speed. Comparatively, the speed and momentum of the other 3 dancing alloy silver pills were much slower. Below the stage, Haruji's expression changed drastically. The other participating students in the India sector stood up from their seats in the inner area with nervous expressions. Based on the current situation, victory and defeat were no longer in consideration. They should be considering the life and death of Saluka. At this rate, Saluka would definitely die. Moreover, in this split second, all they could do was think. They could not do anything else. Everyone, both inside and outside the arena, thought that Zutua's series of killing moves was so sudden and shocking. He had also pushed his flying sword to its limits. Saluka would definitely die. However, just as Zutua's silver flying sword was 1 meter away from the back of Saluka's head, it encountered an inexplicably thick barrier. It blocked Zutua's flying sword. Zutua's flying sword seemed to have pierced through a protective layer that was invisible to the naked eye. Not only did this protective layer block his flying sword, but it also trapped his flying sword. At the judge's seat, Ku Qingshan looked at Hikai, whose eyes were wide open. He knew that Hikai, the referee on duty sent by the India sector, had taken action early and blocked Zutua's flying sword. Therefore, Zutui was the only one who could win this battle. He could not hurt or kill Saluka. At the thought of this, Ku Qingshan wanted to announce the winner. However, almost at the same time, the whistling sound of the alloy silver pill became extremely ear-piercing. Then there were 2 dull thuds. Out of the 3 alloy silver pills that suddenly accelerated, only one was blocked by Hikai again. The other 2 directly blasted into Saluka's head from different positions under his jaw and below his left ear. Saluka trembled. All the brilliance in his eyes dissipated in an instant. The 3 ice shields that were just crumbling instantly turned into water and dissipated. The 3 silver pills flew out once again and hovered above Zutua's head. At the same time, Zutui looked at Hikai, the referee on duty in the India sector. Hikai stared at Zutun with a murderous gaze. Zutua laughed coldly. He had long expected that the referee on duty, Hikai, would definitely interfere and save Saluka at the critical moment. That was why he had a plan. The flying sword had the greatest momentum and attracted the most attention. It was a killing move, but it was also a feint. The real killing move was still one of the 3 silver pills. Of course, if Hikai ignored the flying sword would naturally be his strongest killing move. And he will kill Saluka with 1 strike. Zutui had expected all of this. Ku Qingshan, who was already on duty as a referee, had been patrolling the battlefield with his mind power after the battle started. He was prepared to interfere with the battle to save Zutun at any time. In that case, the referee on duty in the India sector, Hikai, would only go overboard. The flying sword was used to lure away the referee, Hikai. Silver pills were enough to kill Saluka. As Saluka fell heavily to the ground and stopped breathing, everyone was shocked. There were cries of surprise both on the internet and outside.